hasn't lived here for 14 years and has just arrived. Welcome. I was in Singapore with my regional colleagues last week at a big conference for 300 CBRE clients, and the first question they asked, which really threw me after living here for so long, was why is it so difficult to do things, to get access, to get answers in Vietnam? And I was in front of 300 people and I was on my best behavior, but I couldn't help myself from saying, you know, I've given up my quinine pills, my anti-malaria pills. There's an ATM on every street. We don't have Zika yet. There's more McDonald's than there probably should be, and there's far more Starbucks, but there's way better Vietnamese coffee. It's not difficult to get things done. But I think really what my talk should be called is two forward, one back, because yes, I agree with everything you just heard about the wonders of Vietnam and the uniqueness of Ho Chi Minh, but the reality is we still lack the infrastructure. Some of you, if you flew from Hanoi today, would have actually spent longer on the tarmac in Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh than you did in the air, although you would have been on a 350 or a 787. You know, the infrastructure is improving, sorry, the aeroplanes are improving. The English behind the front desk at the Sheraton or here is fantastic and as good as KL, Manila, Bangkok, but the reality is the poor old government hasn't just got the fund, has not got the funds yet to improve the things that MICE really requires. And our numbers unfortunately show it, because all across, I read a good ASEAN report on MICE business this morning, and everywhere it's growing by double digit. And the value of a stay or a visit is increasing, I think up to $4,000 a head in some cities in Southeast Asia, but it's just not happening here. And some of it, unfortunately, is simple things like not enough. Yes, we have lots of 5-star hotels, some of which may not actually be 5-star hotels, but they call themselves 5-star hotels. But the ballrooms just aren't big enough. We have no mass rapid transit yet. It'll be another 3 or 4 years. And this is our biggest facility in the south. It's very nice. It's not used every day. And it certainly wouldn't be up there compared to some of the fantastic locations that are in other cities, particularly in KL or Bangkok or indeed in Singapore. And you can see here from these stats, I think they were last year's stats, but hopefully still relevant, exactly what it means to us for these big conferences and conventions. You can see the value of this business. One of Vietnam's issues, geopolitically, unfortunately, our sensitivity to our neighbours to the north means that sometimes things get cancelled when they may not be cancelled in other cities. So geopolitically, we do suffer from that. Also, our biggest source of tourism, not just from China, but from Russia, disappeared as well last summer for other reasons. So this business is very, very, very important to Vietnam, and one that maybe the government hasn't paid enough attention to in the past. And you can see here the number of events. I'm not quite sure the cut-off point when an event becomes an event and when it's just an internal conference, but just, I'm guessing these stats are using the same criteria, but you can see here Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh are way, way down. I think that obviously there's a chicken and egg. The value of the uniqueness of the experience, I think, is very, 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 very high and extremely memorable. You can still get a soup main here, you can still get 30 people on a Vespa. The events that I've done with my company since I've been here 14, 15 years are truly memorable, and everybody that's been on them would love to come back and do them again, but the guys that organize it take a risk, and that's where there's a disconnect. Everybody loves coming here, the people that attended the events, the incentive, the conference loved it, but the person that organized it has lost his hair or her hair. And that is an infrastructure issue, not an enjoyment issue. So I think we've got two clearly defined things there. One of it is clearly bricks and mortar. We've been a long, long way behind. Vietnam is the build it high, sell them cheap capital of Asia. We've just been through a big residential boom. It's beginning to peter out slowly, but very, very, very few master planners would dream of putting a convention centre in their plans, and as a result we are standing in the only purpose-built one in the city, apart from a few of the large wedding factories, which in many cases are probably the biggest pillar-free spaces. Those of you that don't live here, weddings are an art form in Vietnam. If you get the chance to attend one, you must go. But you can see these are the size of the ballrooms you can see at the bottom, and obviously only now in District 2 in Thu Thiem are we having do we have the chance of a truly world-class, or at least Asian class. These slides will be available to anyone that wants them. But you can see here where we've come from. We also lack a mass rapid transit system, which is all very well if you're able to find a taxi when it's raining, but if you can't, then you're very much reliant on staying close by. As you can see here, this area is, for those of you that know Shanghai, this is our Pudong. There is absolutely nothing there at the moment, except the ring roads being built. So again, it's not just about building beautiful hotels and exquisite exhibition centres, but actually having the bus, the transport, and hopefully the tube and tunnel as the links there. These are some of the sites that are now being available and being offered. But unfortunately, they pale into significance, these sites, compared to what the developers want to build there, which obviously is high-rise residential for sale and office buildings as well. So we all know, being in this industry, that you need to have hotels and office buildings and these convention centres relatively well connected, close by, because they feed off each other, because they're not full every day. You need just as much as a 200 room, you need a 20 room as a 2,000 room, or as a 20,000 room, and obviously you won't get that 20,000 room packed every day. Our own tourist market is mainly pointed towards Bucket and Spade. So it's mainly pointed towards the East Coast. 80% of the tourists that visit Vietnam go straight to the coast. 20% go to Da Nang, to Sapa, and to the Mekong. So it's a very bifurcated experience, and unfortunately only 1 in 10 of our tourists ever come back again, whereas in Bangkok, in Thailand, it's probably 4 out of 10. So we're already at a very big disadvantage. We also have troubles with our visas. Hopefully you all arrived and got your visa on arrival, but the rules are consistently changing. Just on Monday, the rules regarding what Americans have to go through is changing again, and the cost of that. And that can affect a company that's bringing not just 20 people here, but 300 people or 3,000 people. So, and it's not so much the cost, it's the knowledge that I'm going to get my visa when I get here, and I'm going to be allowed off the plane, and I'm going to be allowed through the terminal. It's not the queuing, it's not the going online, it's the knowledge that I'm going to get the damn thing, it's the certainty. And again, people still feel a little bit uncomfortable when they're out. We've had some trouble with our I know this isn't related to Ho Chi Minh, but this unfortunately affects the way people think about the whole of Vietnam, not just the coastal districts. And this is our ministers without their clothes on, tasting the water after the toxic spill that we had in the summer, which is now being cleared up. But unfortunately, it hangs around in people's mind. You know, can I drink the water? This was 1,000 kilometers away. My mother, living in England, rings me up and says, "Mark, you're not going to drink the water, are you?" But this is the way people think, but at the same time, infrastructure. The news yesterday, we were able to celebrate with President Hollande the big new deal we did with Airbus, in the same way that when Obama came here in May, it was a big new Boeing deal. But all these things are improving slowly, but way too slowly, hence 2 forward, 1 back. So there's probably no better place to visit Vietnam than Ha Long Bay, but again, the capacity of getting people there. The funding, much of it's to do with funding, much of particularly the national airline, which many of you will use today. They have got 8 new 787s, of which I think 6 are flying, but they still need to replace the other 40 planes, and it takes a lot of money. Terminals, again, you'll come through Tom Sen Yat, maybe come through Hanoi. Again, not a wonderful experience, not an experience that you could even suggest as remotely as comfortable as KL or Hong Kong or Singapore. And these are things, unfortunately, if you're only coming for 3 days, you do spend a disproportionate amount of time in that long queue at the airport. But you can see here we've got some big numbers. But once these things change, and many of you will remember when KLIA opened or Chapman.com opened, the challenges it had. Just 5 or 6 years ago, the terminal in Da Nang was rebuilt and went from 1 plane a week, international flight a week, to something like 23 different destinations per day. So one small piece of infrastructure can have a massive effect. And again, this is a good example of how the government got it right, put some money behind the terminal, and now they're building another terminal because they've run out of space. In 6 years, they have run out of capacity. So these things can be turned around, and obviously Da Nang is a huge place for the MICE industry. What you probably didn't know was that Vietnam has become a world leader in one particular thing, which is very much tied up with tourism and MICE. And I don't think my colleagues have put this slide in, but we've actually started to develop, rather like Malaysia did 2 years ago, 3 years ago, with the Guinness Book of Records. We now have 6 of the longest, biggest, widest, biggest capacity cable cars. So we're now able to get you up to the top of the biggest mountains, the longest gorges in time. So we've put our money in an interesting place. We haven't put it into infrastructure or into convention exhibition centres. Our developers have put this money into cable cars. An interesting place, but that's where they decided the money is. And also they put their money into off-site developments. So the message I want to leave you with today, Vietnam is waking up quite late to the MICE story. The uniqueness is still there, the baguette, the aviai, the conical hat, the Vespa journey, the cyclo journey is still there. Well, those guys are beginning to realize that actually their days are numbered. There are an awful lot less cyclos on the road today, an awful lot less Vespas, and all those wonderful BMWs and Traction, Renaults and Citroens are now back in Paris. But we're beginning to wake up to other things, more integrated resorts, nothing to do with gambling, but more to do with probably food, or zoos, or cable cars. So the integration of the resorts is coming in, and obviously that's where developers are realizing they can get people to stay. Instead of 2 days, they'll stay 3. And obviously with MICE, again, they will stay 2, 3, 4 days, they'll stay behind after their conference and visit other locations. But we've been very, very slow to wake up. Another thing, golf. We have very, very few golf courses in Ho Chi Minh City compared to Singapore or Bangkok or KL or Manila. There are 35 open courses split between Da Nang, Hanoi and the Mekong. 96 courses under planning with an investment license. So these are the sorts of things that maybe slightly male dominated, but these are the sort of things that people will stay behind to do. And you can see here just on this last slide, just how much money has gone into other parts of the real estate sector, not anywhere near construction of purpose-built conventional exhibition centre. You can see here from this slide that most of the money, the hot money, has gone into hospitality, service departments, but not to purpose-built, often very important convention exhibition space. So on that note, 2 steps forward for sure. I think Vietnam has got definitely the credibility, the name pull. Many people are from around Asia, still haven't been to Vietnam. I'm amazed at how much my own colleagues have travelled from our own office in Saigon and in Hanoi, but how little my colleagues from the rest of our CBO office have actually been to Vietnam. Even people that have been here for 20 or 30 years. They've been to all the other places, Tokyo and Seoul, but they've never been to Vietnam. So name recognition is very high. The government still has a huge challenge to do to persuade developers to build more exciting locations, and obviously having them in the right place, because if they're going to be in the middle of Pudong 20 years before Pudong gets built out, then I don't think people will hurry back here. And secondly, thirdly, we're still challenged by some of the issues, whether it's the airport, the visa issue. You can now take the money back that you don't spend in Vietnam, and you can go to Singapore and you can go to a UOB, a money changer there, and you can change your money. Those issues have now gone away. There's ATMs, the value for money is still great, but now the dong has become much more interchangeable. So these are things that have made life a lot easier when you're organizing an event, but still there's risk here, not just the flooding. When it comes, but the locations are good, but not as good as our ASEAN neighbors. And on that note, I'll say thank you very much.